So last week's video was all about boundary setting, how to create boundaries, how to establish them, how to communicate them. And this week is a follow-on from that. This week is all about the boundaries you need as a single person or someone who's starting to date again. So the boundaries that we're going to be talking about today are the absolute musts that you need to have in place to, one, protect yourself when you're dating, and two, to create better relationships going forward. Boundaries are the cornerstone of respect in a relationship. If you don't have good boundaries, there's no good respect. Nobody knows how to interact with you if you don't have something there to guide them and tell them and set that expectation. Today we're going to focus on 5 key areas for your boundaries: your physical boundaries, emotional, intellectual, spiritual and sexual. So if you're ready to take your self-respect and your relationships to the next level, stick around, this one's for you. Hey, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel as the case may be. My name is Christina. I am the Single Women's Coach. I help single women have powerful mindset shifts so they can live a limitless life. Every week I release new videos on mindset, confidence and manifestation. And if that sounds like your cup of tea, click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified of all of my videos. And if you're feeling super generous, which I hope that you are, please like this video and share it so we can create more impact together. And before I even forget, there is a link to my 10-day self-love challenge down below and my self-love journal prompt so that you can start working on yourself behind the scenes and reach that limitless life way quicker. So this week is a continuation of last week's video. Last week was all about boundary basics, understanding boundaries, why you need them, how to set them up, what are the gaps in your boundaries, and then how to communicate and maintain them so that going forward you always feel respected and appreciated and confident in your own self, in your own relationships, in your family ships, your friendships and whatever. So this week I want to go forward with it, but before I go forward, if you haven't watched that video, I'm going to link it here or here, wherever it shows up. And I'm also going to put the link into the description so you can just go ahead and watch that whenever you get a chance. Boundaries are so incredibly important to every relationship. And I don't just mean romantic relationships, I mean all the relationships that you can have. If you don't have boundaries, you don't have a guide for someone to respect you. Without that guide, people don't know what the expectation is, where the limits are, where that line is, and so they're going to naturally cross it. So boundaries are about you and they're for you. They set up a framework for people to interact with you, to respect you, to look after you, as well as a framework for you to look after yourself. Without boundaries, you leave yourself open to be taken advantage of, you fall into the trap of being a people pleaser, and you might have that fear of rejection playing out in the background that's causing all sorts of self-sabotage. So when we have the boundaries, we're bringing everything into check. So I'd really love for you to firm up some boundaries so that you come into your next relationship as the most empowered version of yourself. So the first set of boundaries I want to talk about are our physical boundaries. And I think about physical boundaries for myself as anything I can see, touch, feel, like my body, my home, it's tangible, right? What is acceptable for one person in their physical boundary space and what is acceptable for the next are two completely different things. When you're single, people often disrespect your physical boundaries first. So I want you to really be conscious of where you're feeling disrespected. And I want to start off by talking about our body for a second. And I know I'm going to get into sexual boundaries in a few minutes, but just when it comes to our body, often people feel like commenting on a single person's body is a free-for-all. So they will just say things, whether it's a comment, a compliment, a criticism, it doesn't really matter. If it makes you uncomfortable, then it's not for you and it's not in your best interest to allow people to do that. And if you feel like people are just openly commenting on your body, to you, around you, about you, you can simply say to a person, hey, my body is actually off limits, if you don't mind, find a different topic of conversation. If somebody is continuously criticizing you, one of my favorite things to do, and I learned this from Marissa Peer, is to say, are you trying to hurt my feelings? Are you trying to hurt my feelings? And the first thing that person's going to do is shut the F up because they won't know what to do. You're challenging them on their criticism or their comment, and it puts them on the back foot. While they may have been unconsciously trying to humiliate you or upset you, you've called it out and now they have to respond. The absolute best thing about saying, "Are you trying to hurt my feelings?" is it tells that person that this is an off limits topic and you cannot go here again. And they won't, because they'll be too afraid of you calling them out. And I really think having firm body boundaries is really important. It's the biggest thing that I see coming into my coaching sessions is women with body image issues because of the constant barrage of comments or criticisms about their body, and then when they get a compliment they can't believe that that compliment is true. We're so open to receiving other people's judgments about ourselves that we're not shutting them down fast enough, and they're doing damage that when somebody says something nice, we don't even fucking believe it. So have a boundary around your body that says to people, my body is not available for commenting or criticism, and right now it's closed to compliments too. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and they literally stand up into your face? So set up some boundaries that give you permission to say to someone, "You're too close to me, do you mind taking a step back?" Or that if you step back, they don't step towards you. Make sure that you feel comfortable in the space that you're in the space that you're in when you're around other people. And it doesn't matter if it's a partner, a friend, a family member. If they're too close to you, they're too close to you. You hold your space and don't let other people into it. You don't want to be uncomfortable. You don't want to go through life being uncomfortable, okay? Another really good boundary to have is around the actual dates that you're going to go on or willing to go on. And whether you're single or you're actively dating right now, it's still good to have an idea of what you feel comfortable with. All dates are going to take you out of your comfort zone to some extent, right? We've all had those pre-date jitters where you're like excited but nervous and a little bit stressed and a little bit anxious, and that's okay. You don't want to go on a date that's going to have you literally ready to poop your pants. You want to have some level of comfort. Having a clear idea of the dates you're willing to go on will carry through to the rest of your relationship. It tells the person that you respect yourself, you're strong and confident in yourself, and that you are unwilling to put yourself in a position that you are not ready to be in. My last physical boundary is do not agree or offer to do those things that you're not comfortable with. Don't fall into the trap of being a people pleaser. Don't offer to do something that you know they're interested in if it's something that you would absolutely hate. Like you saw in their dating profile that they're really into bungee jumping. You shouldn't offer to go bungee jumping if that's literally your worst nightmare. And just because you see somebody and they say that they're interested in something does not mean that you have to be interested in it too. If it's not something that you're genuinely into, don't offer or agree to do it. Stay true to yourself, do what serves you best, and operate from an authentic place. And that boundary of not agreeing, not offering to do something is an invitation for your true self to step forward and to take control of your part of the relationship. So the next place to have really good boundaries are your emotional boundaries. You know, you're entitled to feel what you feel, to be heard, to be seen, but it is a two-way street. So if you want to have that in your life, you also have to be generous and give that to other people too. Emotional boundaries are a little bit trickier because everybody feels things differently, and also we've all got varying levels of emotional intelligence. So I want you to start to think about your own emotional boundaries, especially around your single life. And one thing I will say is set up a boundary around who you are willing and not willing to share your past with. Not everyone needs to know about your past relationships or your past history, and some people are not genuinely interested in it. So only share it with those that you feel are going to be loving and supportive towards you. The next boundary that I would suggest having is around using the dating apps. They can be emotionally exhausting. You're in a cycle of gamified dating where you're swiping to win. And I really want you to start to think about whether you need to be on the dating apps for prolonged periods of time. Set some internal ground rules around how much swiping you need to do, how many people you need to message at a given time, what kind of conversations you're willing to have on the dating apps, and when you're willing to take it off the app and into reality. And when I talk about into reality, I don't just mean meeting in person, I also mean sharing your phone number. Don't give out your phone number if you're not ready for it. Don't meet up with someone in person if you're not ready for it. Don't feel like you have to respond to someone's messages within a certain fucking time frame. Set some ground rules about stepping away and taking a break from using the apps as well, because using the apps consistently for a long period of time, it doesn't help you, it doesn't serve you, it's not going to give you anything that you're not going to get from taking a break. So the next boundary that I would suggest setting is a boundary around who you want to be during those days. So choose yourself how you want to show up. Create your own emotional boundaries. Be the real you, be authentic, and give yourself the best opportunity to be the best you. Following on from our emotional boundaries are our intellectual boundaries. Your thoughts and your opinions are a huge definition of who you are. So if someone's disrespecting your thoughts and your beliefs and your intellect, then they're not for you. So set a boundary around being judged and not allowing people to judge you. And another boundary that you can have in your intellectual boundary toolkit is don't engage in unhelpful conversations. So when it comes to your beliefs, if someone's starting to really challenge them and say, you know, that's bullshit and that's not true, don't get engaged in the conversation because it's not going to be helpful for you. It's not going to give you anything. And the same goes for whether it's a message on Tinder or a comment on Facebook, in person. If you're getting into a conflict or an argument with someone because they don't believe in the same thing as you, it's an unhelpful conversation. Choose whether you need to engage with it or not and leave. Don't stay in the conversation if it's not going to do you any good. And this goes for conversations with your exes. If the conversation with your ex is not helpful, draw the line, cut it off, and move on. Have some serious boundaries around dealing with exes, ex-partners, ex-friends, ex-family members, whatever the case may be. Have some strong boundaries that protect your intellect, your thoughts, your ideas, your own self, because you are what's important here, not them. So the next boundaries that I want you to think about are your sexual boundaries. And I know this is going to overlap with your body and your physical boundaries, but we're going to go into it from a sexual point of view right here. So sex is obviously really important. It's a very important part of your health and your wellness. One of my favorite exercises to do with clients is to get them to write a list of sexual no-nos and sexual non-negotiables. Find your sex no-nos and make a list and make it really clear. And then when you are with someone, stick to the boundaries you've set. Unless suddenly you become curious or suddenly you are feeling like it's something that you want to try and experiment with, then go for it. But if it's not, if you're genuinely not into it, don't do it to yourself. You are worth more than that. You do not have to do something sexually that you're not into. And when it comes to a new partner, find your own rhythm in when you feel ready to take the knickers off and go for gold. And another boundary to have as a single person, but also when you're in a relationship, is sexual boundaries around solo time. So if you are single and you are masturbating, which hopefully you are, set some internal boundaries. You don't need to communicate them. For around when you want to masturbate yourself, when you want some time alone, when you want to give yourself what you need. And also set some boundaries around how you bring that into the relationship and be able to teach them to do that for you. Because you don't want to go and do all this self-exploration and then not be able to actually teach someone how to give you the goods. So just know your sexual boundaries. Know how you want to be fulfilled sexually in a relationship or without a relationship. Having a boundary around the kind of messages that you're willing to receive online or open to receiving online is a really good boundary to have, especially on the apps. If you've been on the receiving end of some very intense sexual messages, like the kind where it's like, I can't wait to bend you over a table kind of shit, then that might not be for you and you need to set the boundary around it. Right, spiritual boundaries are my last little nugget. So like I said in the intellectual boundaries, spiritual boundaries are very, very similar. Everyone's entitled to have their own belief systems and everyone's entitled to have a belief system without judgment from anyone else, right? No one deserves to have their belief system judged or criticized just because it's different. Set up some boundaries around what you believe. Maybe you believe in religion and that's fine. Maybe you don't and that's fine. And maybe you believe in something very spiritual and that's also fine. Maybe you believe in aliens. It doesn't matter what you believe in. Whatever you believe in, that's your belief. You own that. You carry that belief. And you decide who you share that belief with. And you also decide how you allow them to engage with it. So if you're someone with spiritual beliefs and spiritual practices or religious beliefs and religious practices, set some boundaries around how you want to share that, how you want that to be received by the person, what kind of time you need to engage with your spirituality or your religion, and if you're willing and open to sharing that with them. Okay, so there's some boundaries that you can use in your dating life or your single life to keep you feeling safe and respected, as well as creating freedom in your life itself. Okay, so that's it for me this week. If you like this video, please hit the like button and even share it so that more people get to see it. And if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you'll be notified of my next video next week. If you've got any questions, pop them into the comments and I will get straight back to you. Or if you've got any other feedback or any other boundaries that you'd like to add, pop them into the comments and share them. I'd love to see your insights. Start putting them boundaries in your physical, your emotional, your intellectual, your sexual and spiritual life, and see how that changes how you feel, how people interact with you, and the amount that you respect yourself. If you haven't seen the first video about how to create boundaries, it's linked below. You'll be able to check it out, and I will see you next week.